Next up, we have George Bligh from Greenshaw High School. Now, George is joining us to talk about a slightly different approach that they have to identifying those gaps, as we've been talking about this morning. So, George, if you just want to introduce yourself, a little bit about what you do in the school, and I will hand the reins over to you. Thank you for joining us.
Pleasure, Lucy. It's quite worrying when I see my massive face on the screen here, so I apologise for that. I'm just going to share some of the stuff that we've been doing around assessment, actually. So Lucy asked me to focus around our approach to assessment during the lockdown phase. So when we're in school, it's slightly different, but I'll focus on that. So in terms of us as a school, we're about 2,000 students, coming up to about 2,000 students now, so quite big, growing each year as well. We got new intake every year that gets bigger and bigger. And my role in the school really is to look after all of our online learning, digital learning. So you can imagine I've been quite busy around this time. I'm going to look at some stuff around assessment and identifying the gaps in knowledge and things like that. The first thing I want to talk about is what our approach was during this lockdown. So it's very similar to the last lockdown, but on this one, we focus a lot more on the assessment side of stuff. So you see on the screen here, majority of the week's live lessons. When we come to Friday, we have an assessment day for all year groups. And the week after, we give them the feedback quite early on in the week, so they can get used to having that as a routine for them. When it comes to the assessment day itself, the idea of that day on a Friday is for teachers to work together throughout the week to identify what the students should have learned through the live lessons. So in geography, for example, they might say, here are the 5 things that we think our students should have learned throughout the live lessons this week. They'll then create either a multiple choice quiz or an extended writing task based on that week's learning. And teachers are looking to identify the gaps, the common misconceptions, the usual kind of thing. So the assessment day, depends what year group you're in, depends on what task you get. So some of them might be multiple choice quizzes. Some of them might be an extended tasks. Typically for our year 10s and our year 11s, we've done a lot more extended writing tasks, but then the next week they will do a multiple choice quiz. For lower down the school, they're quite used to doing multiple choice because when we're in school normally, every Wednesday afternoon they have an assessment hour and they will get given a tablet and they complete their multiple choice quiz in school. So we carried that on at home for the lower school, doing that on a Friday instead. So the students, well, you can see a quick screenshot there. That's a year 11 example for drama. So they get given the PDF there of what their task is, and the right-hand side, they get an area to actually put in their written responses. So the idea of that then is on the Friday afternoon, as the results are coming in live, as the students are submitting their work, the teacher can look at the answers submitted, and then based on the results of what the students have written, they can then plan their next lesson on the Monday, based on any common misconceptions, or for example, I might say all of my class got question 5 wrong, so we'll focus on that in the next lesson. Each of our lessons start with a do now, which is a 5-question quick task for students to do. If we were in school, the do now will be done on a small whiteboard, so they write down the 5 answers and hold it up for the teacher. Online, we just use a form for that, and the students can submit that, and teachers see it coming through live. So based on the results on the Friday, people will go, oh, okay, question 3 on my assessment, most students got that wrong. So I'm going to ask about that in my do now task. So it starts kind of the circle of the kind of assessment of feedback going. So in terms of feedback itself, teachers can then give feedback live on the assessment on the Friday. So once the student has submitted either the written task, they will get given a small piece of feedback from their teacher. So you can see there's a small screenshot of written task there. So the student answer appears at the top, and then the one underneath is the teacher feedback. So teachers will write the feedback for their class. If it's a multiple choice quiz, even better for us because they actually get instant feedback anyway, which is brilliant. So the teachers don't have to do anything for that at all. The students get the feedback straight away. That's something they really like when we're in school for assessment hour as well, because they see that straight away when they're doing their assessments. So the feedback happens as the assessments are being completed on the Friday, and then it's all about retaining the knowledge, really. So teachers can then decide whether to reuse any of their do now questions they've used in that first lesson the next day, or teachers may also reuse the questions in the next assessment. So I might say, well, they still haven't quite cracked this element of geography. I'll use that in my next assessment as well. So the idea of all of this really is to retain that knowledge. So the circle works with an assessment on a Friday, the feedback, teachers picking up the common misconceptions and wrong answers, using it on their first lesson back on the Monday, analysing again, and reusing them if necessary. So this is all really good if everyone engages. So you can imagine we've got 2,000 students. A lot of those are vulnerable students, different home lives, different circumstances. So what do we do with them? Because you can imagine you might have a class of, SEN needed kids or lower ability students that really needs more support. So we have a strategy around that. And we've actually redeployed a lot of our LSAs. So we call them learning support assistants. They could also be called teaching assistants in some schools. So LSAs, obviously at the moment, can't do their normal job. So they would normally sit with the student in the lesson and support them. They can't do that. So we redeployed them into be a small team of support for those students. So they're still supporting the students they would normally. However, now they're supporting with their online learning on a one-to-one basis. So I've seen some LSAs even say, all right, I'll meet you online, we'll share our screens to each other, and I'll support you that way. So we redeployed the LSAs to do that function. And I think it's even little things as well, like getting them logged on, stuff like that. For us, we take it for granted that I'll just log onto Frog and do the work. But a lot of students that struggle with that. And struggle with remembering passwords and usernames. So our LSAs have been absolutely fantastic at being redeployed just to do that focus. And hats off to them, because it's challenging. It can be really challenging. We all know how challenging it can be sometimes working with students that need extra support. They've done an absolutely sterling job with that. So vulnerable students are really important. Also, what we've done as well is, I think most schools have done this, is do the laptops from a DFE and things like that. So we've got all of that stuff that we've helped our students with. But I really wanted to give a shout out to the LSAs. I think sometimes they get overlooked a little bit in a lot of schools. So it's been great. They've been doing some one-to-one support with our students. The last thing I wanted to touch on, I mean, Lucy's to keep this short, so I'm going to. The last thing I wanted to talk about is something called the Study Hub. This is something that we have launched recently with our Year 11 students. If it was a normal school year, it would be amazing to launch this with Year 11 at this time, because it'll be ready for exams. However, they're not going to do an exam, so we're looking at launching this for Year 10 as soon as possible, ready for next year. So the Year 11s are currently using the Study Hub, and what the Study Hub is it's a portal online that allows them to log on whenever they want, and it's a big revision tool, basically. I am going to share it briefly with you, because I think it's quite nice for you to see, actually see it live and what it actually does. So I'm just going to bring that up in here. So you'll see, when I open this up, there is a variety of different sections inside our Frog platform. This is what I would see if I'm a Year 11 student. So I'm now seeing here the Study Hub section inside Frog. So I've got some tips to use it, and we give them a timetable for the week for the Study Hub as well, so what they should focus on. We've only launched it for sciences and English at the moment, but we're looking at launching some option subjects after half term as well, after the Easter break. If I go into here and I say I want to focus on my sciences today, this is what it looks like for a student. So we've broken it down into some really, really clear areas for them. So the subjects are at the top, so biology, chemistry and physics. And they've also got a couple of bits on side their first page there. So we've got the knowledge checker. And the first thing this does is give them a tick list of all the things they need to know within each subject. So I'm focusing on B2, for example. So B2 in biology is scaling up. So in here, I can see that I've got 3 different review periods throughout the year. And I can tick these off as I go. And I can press save, and that saves it on there. I can come back to this and I can edit that. I've now done these 2 as well and work through that. You can also see here there's some notes as well to them to type in at the bottom. So if they need to focus on certain things, they can put it in that section. Best thing about this is we can run a report. It's just a form inside Frog. So we can run a report on that and we can see who's engaging. If I go into one of the sections here, so we then got subtopics on the right. So B2 scaling up here. As you can see, there are 2 in here at the moment. So I'm not going to try and read these out because I can never say them properly. But let's say I'm looking at this diffusion one here. Each of the pages look exactly the same for all the subjects. So we've got a video, recall, extend, and apply. So the video is a video that our teachers have made. So actually our teachers' voices talking to them. So over the summer break last year, we got teachers to create those for each of their subject areas. So that's on the page. We then got 2 sets of flashcards here. Recall are quick sort of question and answers. So what is diffusion? There's the answer, and they can flick through those as they wish. And extend over here is more kind of bigger thinking questions, so longer answers. So they can flick those around and see the answers of those as well. So we then check their knowledge of those. We don't check the extend, but we check the recall over here. So there's then a short quiz underneath. The students can then launch, and it's the quiz about these flashcards. So they have to look at the flashcards before they do the quiz. And the last section is the apply. This is the sort of the extended answer, written answer section at the bottom. So this is more like an exam question or an extended essay question. So the students will write in the box here. I'll just write out rubbish for now, just to give you an example. They'll write their answer into the box and press save. As soon as they press save, what's quite nice is they get an example answer come up here. So they can't see the example answer until they've submitted their answer into the box. And again, all this stuff can be run as a report. So again, that's just a form. So we can get the data of that and see who's engaged. We can get the results of the quiz as well. So we can do a lot of reporting on engagement, which is what we really wanted to build it for. So I wanted to show that at the end in terms of the whole study hub process. I think it's quite an important part of the platform that we're going to push forward. Like I said, we're going to have some assessments, not assessments, option subjects after half term, after Easter. So I think we are getting there with it, but it does add on to the whole feedback and assessment tool, because this is basically a massive revision tool for the students. So there's a lot of work gone into it, as you can probably tell, but we are really open to people having to share this with us. So if you feel like, you know, we could really use that in our school, maybe just go through Lucy, let us know, and we can always talk. You know, if you're already a frog school, absolutely ideal. We can just go up and onto your platform. If you're not a frog school, whole another conversation. But if you are, then obviously we can help you get that onto your platform and work with us to build some more content, maybe. But yeah, Lucy, I wanted to show that at the end. I just stole a bit of the thunder at the end there around the assessments, but hopefully it all makes sense. Hopefully.
It's fantastic, George. You've missed the channel going absolutely wild. Mark Anderson mentioned that you might like chocolate hobnobs, and and half of the audience are already trying to send you chocolate hobnobs by the end of the week to get a copy of it. And you've just offered that out to everybody without the hobnobs. So
yeah, I mean bribes are welcome always. But yeah, my deputy head that's leading this for me, we've said from the start that we're not in this business to keep our stuff to ourselves. If we can share something that makes someone's lives a bit easier, then we'll definitely be up for it.
Right. Well, I think with that in mind, for those of you that do have Frog, drop us a line and we'll sort that out for you. If we can't just move yours, George, we'll look at how we can build a template as well.
I'm going to just mention as well, because Adrian has kicked off. I can say this. I'm going to mention that I will say thank you to Paul Conkey, because Paul built the little flashcards that flip round. So before Adrian kicks off and has a go at me again, I will give the credit to Paul for that.
Well done, George. Well done. Thank you. But it's a family, so anything that we can do as a team to share or to help facilitate moving that across to other schools, we will do. And thank you very, very much for sharing that. Awesome work. Lovely to see how you are checking on how students are not just how teachers are not just identifying the gaps, but then double checking to see if those kids have actually retained that information. Lovely. Thank you very much.
No worries. Thank you very much.